of you probably think that it's particularly unusual when you know people who have lifestyle choices sort of on the edge of the mainstream, like being an atheist or being a vegetarian. But when I was a kid, things were a little different. My parents, among many other things, were also both atheist and vegetarian. So that's what me and my siblings always were too since we were little kids. No big deal. But then we moved from Washington, D.C. to Texas when I was about 10. And yeah, in Texas, not being Christian was bad enough, but not eating meat was like an affront to the very values they held most dear. So the kids kind of gave me a hard time about this. And also, I was one of these kids who would compulsively chew on my pens and pencils. So then they started calling me the pencil eater. And then the two things got mixed together. So it was like that was the reason I didn't eat meat, only pencils. And of course I tried to explain, no, just last night we had a nice casserole made out of texturized protein and Special K cereal. Special K loaf. Didn't help. So there was nothing I could do or say to shake the pencil eater thing. All the way into the junior high, actually. I remember one day in 7th grade, I came into class, and sitting on my desk was a paper plate with a little tiny pork chop made out of an eraser and some French fries made out of pencil shards and even a side of Elmer's glue because this was Texas and they eat everything down there dipped in ranch dressing. So I became this scrappy kid. Like, I always had my back up, ready to fight. And eventually this got me into some trouble because I started getting into it with these other kids who were like the bad elements. So one day I was kneeling down near my locker and they came up on me, 4 of them, real fast, and surrounded me so I couldn't stand up. And they threw my books down the hall, and then they grabbed my purse and dumped everything out onto the floor. So back then, something that I always carried, and I still do, are those little packets of hot sauce that you get from Taco Bell, because you never know. So after they trashed all my stuff, they grabbed all the packets of hot sauce and squeezed them out one by one on top of my head. So to fully appreciate my response to this, I need to give you guys a little more context about me in junior high. Apart from not fitting in, I was also deeply uncomfortable with the growing up related changes that were happening in my body. Yeah, and an example of this is all of the new things that were kind of required for grooming and hygiene, like acne face wash or stuff for shaving my legs or Kotex pads. I found so embarrassing that I would put them all in this box, which I shoved back under my bathroom sink like no one must know. Now, I'm not like that at all. I actually kind of enjoy buying like legitimately embarrassing things. Vagisil? No, I don't need a bag. Thanks. And I love buying condoms. I think the best is when you're actually with the guy buying condoms and the cashier's like trying not to notice and he says, "Have a great night, guys." And you're like, "Oh yeah, you know we will." But back then it was really different. So that day when those kids rushed me at my locker, I had gotten it earlier, unexpectedly, and I'd been so terrified that I might have a spot on my pants that I'd just been wishing all day that someone would come along and spill something red on me so I could like have an excuse. And then it happened with the hot sauce. Guys, I think that's the only time in my life I've ever doubted being an atheist. So, anyway, I have told that story about getting hot sauce squeezed on my head so many times, but this is actually the first time that I've ever told anybody the whole story, like about why I was actually glad that it happened. And I find this really liberating, so I'm going to tell you guys something else that I've never told anybody before. All right, take it back to the 4th grade now. I just moved to Texas, and I was a new kid, and this little dude starts giving me a hard time, saying, "You know, if you keep chewing on your pencil like that, you get lead poisoning." And I said, "That's not true. It's not even made out of lead. It's graphite." And he said, "Yeah, but it's probably still poison." So obviously, there was only one way that I was going to settle it, right then and there. So yes, I ate it. I ate the wood. I ate the graphite. I definitely ate the eraser. That part was actually good. But sometimes I wish I could just reach back and say, "Stop! Don't do it! You are sealing your fate!" But whatever. I was never going to fit in there. And honestly, when I look back at that little 4th grade girl who was willing to go so far as to eat a pencil just to prove somebody wrong, I still think that's pretty great. So.